What up, comrades? Excuse me. We're here to talk about Overlord, not the anime. I've already reviewed and talked about the first 3 seasons of that. I know there's like a movie coming out, or has come out, that I need to watch, and then I'm assuming they're going to keep going. But no, the light novels, I have the first 11, I want to say. So we're going to kind of see how those compare. Not exactly. I'm not going to do like a play-by-play with both of how they interact. I'm just going to talk about it like I talk about shit. Overlord is one of my favorite anime. It is... I can't say it's my favorite isekai, even, to be completely honest. Like, I like it a lot. It's super fun. It's an interesting, like, take on the genre. And then it's, like, badass as hell, which is my main thing. And, it's, like, funny. It's got a lot of fan service, hot babes. It's got cool main character, all that shit. The only thing I really don't like about Overlord is to spend so much time with, like, the humans, and they're boring as shit. Yes, 100%. Until we get, like, the princess vampire, which, like, Lord, give me strength. I love the shit out of that. But that's like much later, so we're not going to start with that. But it also involves like a lowly vampire, which is fucking lit as I'll get out. Like, it's one of my favorite things in the whole universe, right? And then we get the princess. I think she's supposed to be like a demon, not a vampire. But there's a lowly vampire in this as well. So baller as shit. Okay, so I'm getting over like a cold or something, so I apologize. So we start off in a prologue, and we get some girl, Henri, who, if you watch my stuff on the anime, you've seen the anime, you know what I'm talking about. And she is being attacked. She's about to be killed by some knight, some soldier, and then darkness, like a darkness portal pops up, and then the skeleton man in a long, beautiful robe shows up and just fucking kills the soldier. And the woman is like so afraid she's gonna pee herself. And then we start with Chapter 1. So Chapter 1, we get an explanation about what a virtual reality video game is. They call them something here. I can't remember, like a deep dive game or... I don't know. Doesn't matter. Anyway, and so then we learn about Yggdrasil, which is like the most popular of all these kind of virtual reality games because it has like the ultimate amount of customization. You kind of do whatever the shit you want. It's got 9 worlds in it and everything. But it's about that. They're about to close off servers, and who knows if they're going to make like a sequel or what. And so we get 2 figures at a table that's made for like 30 or 40 or something. One's this like black bob creature, and one's like a lich known as an overlord. And so we get a lot of information here about this guild, the Ainsul Gold Guild. Gond, I think. How it was like specifically a guild for like older salaried individuals, like men and women, but like, people who have like full-time jobs, but they don't want like kids and shit in here. And then they were like quote unquote an evil guild, and that they were like got up to like rank 9 in the world of like Yggdrasil for like all the guilds, which is a pretty big deal. They weren't on majority rule, but this one guy, the skeleton guy, was the guild master. These are like the last 2 guys. They talk about like their jobs and stuff and how it sucks that the game's closing up, and it kind of sucks that all the people in the guild kind of like went their separate ways over time, and that they're the only 2 that could really get that are left here. And then at some point in like this first book, we get the name of the actual Japanese guy, but in the game he goes by Momonica, something like that. Anyway, he is the Lich, and he's the main character of this game. So once the other guy leaves, the blob, he's like, I gotta get to sleep, man, I got work in the morning. And it's like, cool. He's gonna stick around until like the game officially closes down. So he just like starts walking around the halls. He visits the throne room, and then we bounce back over to like Henri, and she's just like chilling with her, and like, so this is previous to like the prologue. She's just chilling with her family. She's got a little sister and a mom and a dad, and they're just doing like, she's getting water back and stuff. And then they get attacked by like somebody in the neighboring kingdom, and so her parents like defend them so that her and her sister can like run away and stuff. And then we head back over to Ainsul Ghul, or sorry, Momonica, or whatever it is right now. Ainsul Ghul, again, is the name of the guild, and then Nazariq is the name of the tomb that is the headquarters of the guild. So Momonica, he makes some changes as he's heading down to level guardians. There's like the succubus babe, who is like the head of all the floor guardians. There's like 10 floors or something. Albedo is her name, and he goes into like her background history, and at the very end, the guy who made her character, NPC, is like, she's a total bitch, and he's gonna like that, so he erases it, and then he says like, is in love with Momonica, and he's like, I love that, that's much better. And he's like, tee-hee, oh well, the game's almost over, so what are you gonna do? And then he sits and waits for the world to end, but then it doesn't. And then all of a sudden, all the NPCs are alive, and he kind of freaks out. And so he sends out Cebus, who's like a demon butler, who's like, I don't think he's in charge. He's in charge of the Pallades and the other like battle maids that exist in the guild that are, they're battle maids. They're fucking awesome. And he wants him to go like search around and figure out what the fuck's going on, because he's in like this. The game it's supposed to be a game, but now it's like a world. Now the NPCs like have personalities and stuff, and they're not just like going by programming or whatever. So the whole thing's like super bizarre. And he's doing a lot of like confused. He's like testing a lot of stuff out because he's like, wait a second, is this real? Am I having a dream? Is this like part 2 of the game, and he's having all these like crazy thoughts about what's going on and whatnot. So then to like test like whether stuff's real or whether the NPCs are real or like the programming and stuff, he gets Albedo to come over and he like, you know, touches her boobs and stuff, and she's getting all super turned on because remember he changed her programming right before the game translated over to like the real world to make her like completely in love with him. So she's like, tee-hee, oh, I love this so much. And then he's like, all right, Albedo, get all the floor guardians and have them come to like the 6th floor, which is like a Coliseum battle world style level, and then we'll have a conversation about everything that's going on. So then at that point we head into chapter 2. Or part 2. The thing is confusing. It's got like 5 chapters, and each chapter is broken into like 5 chapters. It's like, fuck. Anyway, so the next part, Momonga visits the 6th floor, which is the Coliseum. There we meet Aura and Mari, and they're twin dark elves who are like 76 years old, but they look like they're 12, right? Nice. So, and he reminisces about how these characters were made by like a friend of his who's this girl, and that she has a younger brother who's in the guild as well. And so Aura is like very dominating over Mari, and Mari is very timid, and he likes, and Momoka is like, I wonder if that's how she felt about brother and sister relationships, like that her younger brother should listen to him and stop being an asshole. Anyway, they're super adorable. Mari is very shy and timid. Aura is very fiery. They do stuff with like Mari is like a druid healer, earth magic, while Aura is all about like beasts and summoning beasts and taming beasts and stuff. Anyway, he wants to practice some stuff because they had this guild staff that they all built together, but they never used it. It was just kind of like a centerpiece, but it was like super powerful magic, right? Like it's like a world artifact item or something. And we find out through the course of this first chapter or 2 chapters that even though it's like an actual real world with real world stuff, and they're not even in Yggdrasil anymore, that all the characters still refer to things in like video game terms, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so he's here to practice because he's never been able to use the staff because that was not the point of it. And so he's gonna practice with it here and see what's going on with that. All right, this juncture, we pop over to this knight, Gazov or whatever. He's like the head of like the knight select group, which reports directly to like the king of like the country they're in right here. And he's, there's been all sorts of attacks on villages lately, and so he got sent out here to like check on it and stop them from being attacked. And clearly him and his like subordinate talk about how this is all like a trap to lure him out because there's like some shady shenanigans with like nobles and whatnot. And they talk about honor, and they talk about how they both grew up like poor and in the peasantry and stuff. And even though this is a trap, they can't just keep letting these people die, so that even if it's gonna like cost them, they have to go like save them because that's their job and whatnot. And then they discuss how magic user, Gazov's like one of the strongest like martial fighters in like all the land, but with the magic users around, that could cause some really serious issues because they don't have magic users, and it seems like the people attacking the villages do. But they will do it nonetheless. Meanwhile, a group of knights teleport in from a nearby empire in like a different location, and they also discuss how they're trying to lure Gazov out. Back to Momonga. He's practicing magic on the 6th floor and whatnot. Everyone's like watching him do it, and they're all super impressed and whatnot. And then he also realizes he has access to like his items, like an item, like you click I in games, or you click like triangle in a lot of games, and it opens up the item menu. So we can do that. He just opened, or like what was it in not Demon Slayer? What's that awesome anime I watched that I listened? The awesome book I read that became an anime at the same time I was reading it. It was Solo Leveling. God, that book is so fucking dope. So it's fire. It's hype after hype. Anyway. And so he has like this magical bag of holding or whatnot, and then he's like, I'm gonna try something. So he wants Aura and Mari to fight like a flame elemental that he's gonna summon. So he has like the staff can like summon a greater elemental or something like once a day, so he summons it, and they fight it and beat it up real good. After that, the floor guardians all arrive. This is where we meet Shaltir, my lowly vampire queen, which is fucking nice. Her and Aura like hate each other, because so there was the girl who made the twins, right, with the older sister who like berates the weak younger brother, and then her brother who's in the guild, he made Shaltir because he is a man of culture and likes lowly vampires. And so just like the siblings fought in real life, they fight in the Tomb of Nazarick. So then we meet, then we meet Demiurge, who is like the head advisor, or like he's under like Albedo in terms of like the floor guardians. He's like a slick looking demon dude with like a red zip suit or whatever, or zoot suit. And then Al-Qaedus, something like that, he's like a big bug monster covered in, and he's like a great defender and all that stuff, and he's ice, so like anything around him gets like cold penalties and whatnot. And so then they all report on the realms, and there's two that are missing. There's like Gigantus or Gigantium or something, and then another one, because they're like, Gigantium can't like leave the floor because he's so big supposedly, and then the other one, and so they all report in that everything's going well, you know, yada yada yada, and then Sebas returns, and he's like, there's nothing anywhere at all, but they're not in a swamp, they're like in a plains, and there's like forests around, and it's like, that's unusual because it's the Tomb of Nazarick in Yggdrasil was built in a swamp, so why are they not in a swamp right now? So then he talks about like, okay, well, I want to like camouflage this shit because we clearly just like stand out. We're like a giant tomb sitting in the middle of this like open field with like a little bit of forest. So what if we cover the tomb in dirt to make it look like a hill? Oh, we could do that, but then like there's no other hills around here or anything, so that would look weird. And so what about Mari? Can you make a bunch of hills and stuff? Mari's like, yeah, I can do that. And so they decide that they're going to camouflage the tome and keep doing recon and whatnot. And then we get like a legitimate intermission, which is funny because then Momonga like leaves, go, I don't know, take a nap. And so that leaves us with like the floor guardians. And so we get to hear their point of view about this whole situation. And so they're so happy that Momonga is like still here, that all the other, they got abandoned by everybody else. And they all like talk about how they swear, like they completely swear 100% allegiance to Momonga. And then Albedo and Shoutir get into like a huge argument about who's going to be Momonga's wife and breed his children. And the Demiurge thinks about like the breeding process, like he's playing Crusader fucking Kings. And then finally Albedo and Shoutir come back from like their argument. They talk about how they can be like a harem, and now that they're both gonna be married to Momonga, that now they just gotta decide who's gonna be like the head wife, but they can deal with that later. And then Demiurge also thinks about like breeding like Mari because he can have seed as well, and so it's like, oh, we can have some more, he can have more children, so we gotta figure out how to take care of that. And Mari's like, what? I don't understand, I'm only a 7-year-old elf. Anyway, after all that like hilarity ensues, Albedo gives everyone their orders. Elsewhere, Momonga summons like some plate armor and stuff so that he can go out of the tomb and be anonymous, right? Because he's walking around and it's hard for him to like take account of like the people and like the world around him if he's like this skeleton mage. So he's able to like he puts on armor, but like doesn't work because like his stats or something. But if he like conjures like plate armor and like swords, that's like a different story. So he works on doing that. But you know, he can't be anonymous because as he's heading out, he sees all of like Demiurge's like subordinates, and then Demiurge is just like waiting for him, and he's like, "Sir, I sense that you immediately were trying to leave, so I'm here to like make sure you don't do that because you got to protect you," and yada yada yada. And then Momonga finally agrees to let Demiurge like follow with him, so they go out and they're just kind of like staring at the night sky and stuff, and then Momonga gets kind of like reminiscent of like life or whatever. He just kind of like starts talking about stuff, and he's like, this whole world, this is a new world for us. And he's like laughs and like, maybe we'll just take over the whole world. And Demiurge is like, yes, my lord. And then Momonga's like, oh, just don't worry about me, I'm just talking. And then he's watching, like, they're watching Mari like develop the camouflage and build the hills, and they're talking about how good of a job he's doing. And then he wants to go talk to Mari and give him like a reward. So Demiurge heads out, and he goes and approaches Mari, and he gives him one of the rings of Ain's Algon, which it's like the only way to teleport around the tomb, and he wants to give them all his floor guardians so they can get around better instead of having to walk everywhere. But he gives the first one to Mari, and Mari's like super grateful, and this is like a super big deal. So they talk a little bit about just like whatever. At that point, Albedo comes on over, and she's ashamed that she is so dirty from all the hard work that she's doing, and he's like, what, you're beautiful. And then she gets like super hot and horny. Which takes us over to Henri and her sister, who are still running away from soldiers. They finally like collapse, running completely out of energy. She fights a little bit with the knight, like kicks him in the nuts and stuff to like get away from her sister, and she gets stabbed in the process. And then she's still like super determined that she's going to fight for her sister and make sure nothing happens. Meanwhile, back at the tomb, Momonga is just like using a scrying mirror. It took him a while to like figure out how to use it, but he's finally able to like observe the world around them. And then he sees the slaughter going on at the village, and he's kind of like, whatever, I don't really give a fuck about that. And then he thinks about how like when he was a human, would he care more? Is he not human anymore because he doesn't care? Like this stuff means nothing to him. The only thing he cares about is the tomb, and like how he might have changed in the process over. Or was he always like this? And has a lot of reminiscing about that. And then he thinks about his old friend, who's one of the members of the guild, and it's the one who like saved him and kind of like helped him establish the guild in the first place, like all the way back when he first started Yggdrasil, because he was getting like beat up. And then this guy just showed up, and he's like, "Why'd you come over to save me?" And he's like, "It's nice to save people, and it's helpful." And he's like, "You know what? I'm gonna do it." And so he decides he's gonna go help. So he gives orders. He's thinking of like Demiurge, and he tells, "Hey, get Albedo up with me and get this going on and protect the tomb and make sure all this stuff happens." To Demiurge, like, "Yes, my lord." And so then he puts on like a mask. Oh no, he just teleports over, and this is where we get to like the prologue of the book. And he gets in there and he just like kills the shit out of the soldier, and the girls are like peeing themselves. They're so scared, but he heals them using like a throwaway magic potion, which he can't use because he's undead. So like the rules of this world, it's kind of like Final Fantasy rules, where like if you use a Phoenix down on like the train, it automatically dies. And then he gives her a horn. He creates a protective shield around the girls, asks them where the village is, and then gives them like 2 horns. Each one summons like goblins that will last forever and kind of do whatever. And they're kind of like a very low level like item, because goblins are shitty. But it's just like kind of one of those throwaway things he like got in like a gotcha pool or something. And he's like, "Here you go, I don't need this." At that point, Albedo shows up, and she's yeah. He summons a death knight from like the corpse of this guy. And then sends him off ahead of him, and that's when Albedo shows up, and they have like a little chit chat about humans and their values and whatnot. And he's like, "All right." So the Death Knight goes and hits the village, and this opposing force has like got the whole village, and they got him surrounded, and they're talking about like massacre him. They're like burning the whole place down, and the Death Knight rolls up and just kills the shit out of everybody. And as he's killing some of them, that we find out that Death Knights, when they kill people, they turn into zombies too. And so that's going super great for for Momonga. And then Momonga shows up, and this time he's got some sort of like anniversary gift. You know, they just, in some of these old MMORPGs, they just give you like random shit for holidays and whatnot. And he's got this like funny mask that he's just wearing, and he's wearing some like gauntlets so that people can't see that he's a skeleton. So he rolls in, says that he is now going to be called Ainz al Ghul, and that's to keep like his name a secret, and also that if he can become famous as Ainz al Ghul, maybe like if there's other members of his guild that like teleport to this world, they can recognize him, right? And him and Albedo have this whole conversation about it like beforehand. So now we're going to start referring to Momonga as Ainz, because it's just easier, and that's how everyone else refers to him going forward. So we have Ainz, like Ainz from Nikkei Goddess of Victor. Right? All right. So he shows up, everyone's pretty much dead. He kills like the rest of them except like 4 soldiers. He tells them to go back to their masters and tell them if they ever come to this village again, they're going to be destroyed by Ainz al Ghul, and spread the word to be fucking scared and to leave this village alone. And so then they run away. And then he turns to like the villagers, and they're freaking out, and he has to use like his mind to like convince them that he's there to help, but he's there to help because he wants like information, right? Because if he just says, "I'm just here to help because I'm here to help," people are going to be like very skeptical. But if he's here to help because he wants something, people are much more willing to like believe that, which is 100% true, which is a good way to make sales and convince people to do things. Is like, you're doing me a favor as well. Like you're not, because people get like very sketched out when it's like, "I'm doing this to help you because I just want to help." People are like, "No, you don't. No one wants to help anybody," right? Sad but true. So he finally convinces everyone to like chill out. He kind of leaves Albedo and the Death Knight to like help with the people or anything that's going on there, and then him and the head of the village, they head into his place. And so again, he trades knowledge. At first he's like, "How much can you pay me?" They're like 3,000 copper, and he's like, "I have no idea what that means." He doesn't say that to the guy. He's just thinking it. He's like, "I don't want that money anyway. I got like enough money." So he pulls out one of his gold coins. He's like, "How much is this worth?" And they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's like worth 2 of our gold coins." He's like, "All right, it's good to know." And then his gold coins are from like Yggdrasil, right? So they're still a value, which is nice. But then he just wants, as I mentioned before, he just wants to trade knowledge. So like, just tell me about the world. That's what I want to know. I've been like locked in. I've been doing like magical research and other bullshit for so long that I don't know what's been happening politically. It's been like a real long time because I'm a wizard. Ooh, scary wizard. So tell me. And so he explains like there's like the theocracy, and there's the empire, and there's like the kingdom. They all got names. I don't remember. But that this place is not, it's like, I think Arantel's the kingdom, or that's the name of this world, but it's not Yggdrasil anymore. Like clearly not Yggdrasil anymore. And so they talk about that, and then he realizes the guy doesn't speak Japanese, because when he's saying words, even though Ainz is hearing Japanese, his mouth doesn't meet those. So there's some sort of like magical gift or something about transporting over here. It's very hand wavy to be like, "Oh, I can communicate with this like foreign world as much as I want with like any creatures, and it doesn't matter." So that's nice. So at least he like the author addresses it, which is good. And then Ainz thinks about how he needs to develop like common sense, because he doesn't understand this world at all, and so he doesn't have any common sense. And the more he can like understand things, he can develop more common sense, and things will make more sense, and he'll make better decisions, which is like good advice for anybody anywhere ever. Like if you understand like the culture you're in and what makes sense to most people, like what is quote unquote common sense, then you're going to be doing a lot better because you can understand why people are doing things, and also you can respond and kind of fit in better. And then a guy comes to interrupt their conversation because it's funeral time. Ainz heads out to watch the funeral with the rest of the people. You know, he sees Henri like trying to hold it together for a little sister and whatnot. After kind of watching the whole precision with everybody kind of getting burned and all that stuff, he goes to talk to Albedo. Mari and Ara have showed up, and they got a huge force. And there's these like, he calls them like the 8 Hands or something. They're these like very specialized assassins. They got like a super big army. Like they brought like full force out for this thing, but they're all hiding and kind of sitting back. And so Ainz is like, well, this is a little much. You can take them all back. Just hang out, like have Mari and Ara hang out, and then have them keep like the 8 Hands, which is like, I don't know, there's like 40 of them or something. And everybody else can go back to the Tomb of Nazarick. There's no real danger here. Then word comes that some knights on horseback are headed this way, but it ends up being the knights from earlier in the book, like Gazoff and his crew. And they're coming here to like save the village because this is part of the kingdom and whatnot. So they chat with the headman and Ainz about what's he doing here, what's this wizard doing here, what happened here. You know, and people talk about how he's very strong, he's so courageous, kind of stuff we already know. He bows to Ainz for helping with the village, and Ainz is like, oh, this is really unnecessary. Like, I came here for knowledge, and they gave it to me, so, like, I didn't do this selflessly, right? And then right as they're about to, like, kind of chill and, like, chit-chat about just, like, random bullshit and whatnot, word comes again! There's another force surrounding the village, and this is not Ainz force, this is, like, a tertiary group or whatever. And so we head over to them, and they're the members of the Theocracy, and they've set a trap for the night guy, Gazoff. And then we find out there's, like, 6 groups called the 6 Scriptures, which are, like, the elite special forces of the Theocracy, and that they are working with nobles in like the kingdom to undermine the king, and that since Gazoff's like the head of like the Knight Select, which is like the premier fighting for martial force for the king's side against the nobles, or just like in general, that as long as he exists, then like it's going to be harder to like overthrow the kingdom or like work whatever crazy bullshit Game of Thrones stuff the Theocracy is trying to do. So, at some point before this book started, the nobles were able to strip Gazoff of like all his like magical artifacts and stuff because of like government and stuff, and I don't know, I guess they're sort of like a republic. And so this is like the chance that the scriptures that this group, one of the 6 Scriptures, has to get Gazoff, because it's his weakest moment, right? He's away from the capital. He doesn't have any of his like magical like bullshittery and whatnot. And so they're very excited about that. Back over to Ainz and Gazoff, they're talking about the whole situation, and they decide that Gazoff, like Ainz is like, I really want nothing to do with this. Like, if you can just I swear to protect this village, so if you can distract them from this village, I'll make sure all the people in the village are like taken care of. And so Gazoff's like, oh, will you help me? And he's like, no. Because I'm here to protect the villagers. And so Gazoff's like, that's fine. I didn't expect you to, because you're just like some random mage out here, and this is my job as like the Knight Protectorate of like the kingdom or whatever. So Gazoff makes a rush at these guys, and there's like 4 mages that create like a trap essentially or whatever, and then they start summoning like angels, right? Not angels like from heaven, but angels as in like, I don't know, like summonable beings in like a video game. Right, to go fight Gazoff and stuff, and it's a pretty epic battle. Not gonna lie, like my description of it is gonna be pretty short, but it goes on for like a whole chapter almost. Where Gazoff just killing the shit out of angels, using all these like martial techniques. His troops are being like inspired by him. They're using their own martial techniques, and they're doing a pretty good job fighting off the angels and all that stuff. And then. Finally, Gazoff starts to get overwhelmed, and his troops start to get overwhelmed, and he's about to get killed by like one of the angels or whatever. And then suddenly it's like, wha-bam! Instead of Gazoff, Ainz is there with Albedo, because Gazoff got sent back to be with the rest of the villagers, and now Ainz is there. Ainz and Albedo. And Albedo's wearing like this pure black, like plate mail armor, so you can't see anything about her, and she looks like angry as fuck in this thing. And whatnot. And the Gazoff, like, he's like, all of a sudden he's just like sitting in like the head of the village's like home, and he's like, the fuck happened? And he's like, I don't know, Master Ainz and his like lady and his like knight friend, like, we're standing here and now you're here, so I don't know. And then Gazoff like laughs because right before they left, Gazov was given an item by Ainz. He's like, hey, hold on to this, don't lose it. And Gazov's like, what is this? And Ainz is like, just hold on to it. Because he was using it to watch him the whole time. So then Ainz and the priest, the head priest of the scripture order, they start trading barbs and threats and whatnot, and Ainz is just like laughing at him. And he's trying to milk information from the guy, but the guy's getting like super angry. And so he sends a bunch of angels at him, and Ainz just like kills all the fucking angels in like one blast. And he's like, that was weak as shit, man. And even the angels like impale him with swords, and he like laughs at it because his like natural like physical immunity is like way higher than like any of the angels levels. And so then there's like let's see, oh, okay. And then there's a guy another angel who's just been sitting watching, and he's like the overseer angel or whatever, and his thing is like, as long as he stands there and watches, like all the angels will be like stronger. But so they send him after Ainz, and then Ainz kills the shit out of him, and then the theocracy priest guy is like freaking the fuck out, and he pulls out this like special secret crystal, and it's someone's like the most powerful angel ever, and it's the most powerful. It can do magic that's far beyond anything humans can even imagine doing, which is like level 7 magic. I don't think if I mentioned this before, but Ainz is like the master. So in Yggdrasil, magic went up to like level 9 or 10, and Ainz is like, he knows all the magic. Like, like something about his specialty is like 9 and 10 level magic, or just, I think it might just end at 9. So like this paltry like level 7 magic is like some bullshit trinket cantrips to like Ainz power, right? And so anyway, this super angel, which is like all hands with like giant wings in the sky, like gets summoned forth, and the priest is like laughing, and all his like little minions are like pleased because this guy's gonna kill the shit out of Ainz. And then it casts this like super light attack on Ainz, and then when it's over, Ainz is just standing there laughing, and he's like, oh, that kind of hurt a little bit. And then Albedo like loses her shit because they caused a little bit of pain to Ainz, and she's like frothing at the mouth and like twisting, and she's like starting to turn into like a demon or something. I mean, she is like a demon, but she's going to turn into like a looking demon instead of like a hot sexy chick in like black armor. And then Ainz has to like calm her the fuck down. He's like, whoa, girl, like chill. And then he just like waves his hand, and the angel, he casts like, it's black hole or something, which is like a level 8 spell or something, and it just eats the angel up. And then he dismisses all the magic, and he's like also boom, and then something like fades away, and the priest is like, what? And he's like, someone was watching us. And then the priest is like, oh shit, they were watching us over at like the theocracy, see what's going on. And he's like, they're not watching us anymore, which I guess maybe I should have left so they can see me kill the shit out of you guys. And then he gets ready to kill like everybody. And then the head of the scripture is begging for his life, and then Ainz and Albedo throw his own words back at them, because he was saying something about like their lives are meaningless and he's gonna kill, or no, the words like Gazov was like begging for like the lives of his men or whatever, and so they just like taunt him using the same words he was using on Gazov when he was like on his knees, and they're like, ha ha ha, you dumb bitch, get ready for some carnage. And then that ends like a section of a chapter, and then it's like later on, Ainz is sitting around back at Nazarick just chilling, talking to Albedo. They talk about how they captured all the theocracy guys, and we kind of get like a summary of the whole book, like everything that happened, like it's like a battle report essentially, so it's pretty good stuff. Gazov headed back to the capital. Ainz and Albedo headed back to the Nazarick with all the guys, and they're going to like torture them and maybe turn some of them into the slaves, and they're going to get information from other ones, and they're going to hand them over to like one of the guys who's going to do experiments on them and see what humans in this world are like and whatnot. And that wraps up like the story, but not the whole story, because now we're in like the epilogue. So in the epilogue, Ainz continues to talk to Albedo about, and he confesses, he's like, oh hey, at some point I modified your personality, so like, you know, the reason you're so in love with me is because I did something magical to you. And she's like, I don't care, I feel great. And he's like, you sure you're okay with that? And she's like, yes, I love you, I don't give a fuck. And he's like, okay. She then talks about being his bride, and he's like, yeah, we'll talk about that later. And she's like, he said yes. Then there's like a huge meeting in the clan chamber, later on. So all the minions and all the guardians of the floors and everybody are there, and then Ainz like officially declares that to everybody that he's no longer a Momonga, and there's like a tapestry with his name on it up in like the, you know, all the guild members have tapestries with like their names on it, and he like destroys that tapestry and like magically creates a new one that has like Ainz, and he's like, I am now Ainz Ulgon. And then he gets this like super badass speech and orders them to spread his name throughout the entire world. And one of the reasons he's doing this is because people aren't going to necessarily remember the guild master of like his guild, but they will recognize the guild because it was one of the top guilds. And if there's any other humans here, they will hopefully recognize his guild, and maybe they can like meet up and like chit chat about things that are going on. And he hopes he doesn't do anything too outrageous. Like so far, all he's done is to like treat people who are assholes like assholes, and he's like saved a village. So hopefully he hopes that like if there's other humans, they won't come and try to fight him, even though like his guild's got like a bad rep as like a PK guild and stuff, which they were. And then he leaves, and once he leaves, Demiurge reveals what he was talking to about earlier, and this is when Ainz was just like hanging out outside, and he's like, oh, maybe I should conquer the whole world, ha ha ha. And Demiurge's like, he wants to conquer the whole world, so we have to make that possible. And they're like, yes, we will help him take over the whole world. And then they start scheming, like Albedo, Demiurge, the whole crew, about how they're going to help fulfill his ultimate goal of taking over the whole world. Unbeknownst to him, which is delightful. That's Overlord Volume 1. Fucking fantastic. Just as good, if not better than the anime. I thoroughly enjoyed it, every piece of it. So go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and we'll get to... I'm doing this and Highlander kind of back-to-back for the next, like, several months. Because there's a lot of Highlander, and I got, like I said, 11 volumes of this. So 11 volumes over two times a month. It's like half a year almost. So, yeah, join me again in a couple weeks for more Overlord light novel discussions, or whatever this fucking is, reviews. And hope you all have a good time. Go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.